Let's get a move on, and while it's extremely sharp decline that the market is witnessing, let's just change the topic of discussion to the Jal Jeevan Mission. Remember, the government's objective is that to provide water supply to all households in the country, extending the program to all 4,378 urban local bodies, and that equates to about 28.6 million households with a tap connection. So what does it then really mean business-wise for pipe companies? Because that's going to be a key component of this entire mission. Let me welcome on board then Rajneesh Chopra, the Global Head Business Development at Tech Wabag, and we also have with us Sandeep Kumar, MD at Tata Metaliks, joining in on the show. Gentlemen, both of you, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining in. Sandeep, if I could just start the discussion with you. Clean water in rural homes by 2024, that is the Prime Minister's next big plan. How big an opportunity you think this is for you, and how long, more importantly, will it take to provide water to the rural areas as targeted?
Yeah, so I think this is a very, very interesting and I would say ambitious program of Prime Minister Modi. And this Jal Jeevan Mission, which covers the rural areas of the country. If you look at the budget announcement this year, it's at a level of 100,000 crore for FY22. Now, of course, about 50-60% of that is coming from the center, and balance will have to be shelled out by the states. Assuming that, the actual expenditure is, let's say, 40%. Or even 50% of what's been announced, you're staring at a massive investment. And therefore, I think the water infrastructure sector in the country should get a massive boost. Just to give a context, on an annual basis, typically the expenditure on water would not be, exceeding, say, anywhere between, let's say, 15,000 to 18,000 crore. Now you're talking about 5 times that number. Okay. And even if we take 50% of the hit rate, you're still talking about a number which is almost 2.5-3 times what you would normally spend. So it's a massive boost. And I think the ductile iron pipe players, the other pipe manufacturers also would certainly get a lift because of this massive investments planned by the government. Now, not only on the rural area, the government has also announced that they are starting Jal Jeevan Mission urban. Of course, the expenditure there is slightly lower. But even if you look at an expenditure of 2,80,000 crore over the next 5 years, that's again massive. So on the whole, it's a very good time for the water infrastructure players to be in and for the ductile iron pipe players to be in. I suppose that gives you a bit of a sense of what we are looking at.
Okay, fair point. Rajneesh, if I could get you in on the conversation as well. Given the growing importance of providing clean water and water to all along with it, what kind of an opportunity do you think is it in terms of numbers for companies such as yours?
Is it addressed to me? Hello?
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yes, Rajneesh, go ahead, please.
Yeah. See, as far as these big announcements are concerned, I think you started the conversation by saying it's a big opportunity for the pipe players. So going by generally the thumb rule, almost 60 to 65% will be spent into the distribution infrastructure, which is primarily more of the construction activity. But our assumption is that 25 to 30% will be spent on the treatment. So treatment will have 2 things where technology plays a key role. First will be this will lead to the huge surge as far as water demand is concerned. So when the water demand is going to up, there is going to be at some stage or the other resource augmentation. And I think Jal Jeevan Mission has already gone on record to say that 20% of the water supply will be supplemented by recycle and reuse. I think that's a big opportunity for Wabag, where I see that. The other opportunity on resource augmentation, we see that given the huge coastal line, which India possesses, more than 7,500 kilometers, there are a lot of arid regions, which are on the coastal belt. So desalination is another alternative, which a lot of states are already exploring to supplement the water supply. On the second hand, when you're going to augment the water supply in such a big way, it will lead to a huge generation of wastewater. And as per state policies, now they intend in the next 5 years to first to treat 100% of the wastewater generated, and then over and above that, they are intending to recycle and reuse. 5 states have already implemented the plan, which is saying that 70% of the treated wastewater will be recycled and reused. And as Wabag, we have credentials of not only treating water for industrial supply, but way back, more than 1.5 decades back, we implemented a project for direct portable reuse in Namibia. And even currently, we have executed a project of 45 million liters per day in Chennai of treating the wastewater and being supplied to the industries, and it conforms to drinking water standards, if I have to talk about it, but it's not being used for drinking water standards. So these are a few opportunities where I see that out of the total outlay, around 30 to 35% will be spent on the treatment. And as a market leader, definitely Wabag would like to retain its share of, maybe in a good double digit of the total market size. Hello.
Okay. Sure. Sandeep, if I could also come to you with the growing importance of providing clean water. It's a huge opportunity, but also quantify this for us, if you can, in terms of the kind of long-term benefits for the company.
Right. So we are currently, let's say, a capacity of, 2 lakh tons today. And the country has a capacity of, let's say, about 2.4, 2.5 million tons. From a production point of view, we are one of those few companies which actually produces more than our capacity. So we are at a level of 115, 120% of our capacity utilization. So we are producing, let's say, about 240,000 tons per annum. Of course, this year being an exceptional year because of COVID. We are also currently undergoing an expansion, the first phase of which will get completed by end of this year, and the second phase by next year. So that will double our capacity from 2 lakhs to 4 lakh tons. From a country's perspective, the 2.5 lakh tons, the capacity announcements by a few other players and new players together would, maybe add perhaps another, let's say, 700 to 800,000 tons, or maybe 1 million tons at most over the next 3 to 4 years. But the demand seems to be exceeding that at the moment, currently with the, announcements of the government. So overall, from a revenue perspective, if you want to get a sense, let's say our revenue is about 1,200 crores for only DI pipes from a Tata Metaliks point of view. And we have, let's say, about 12% market share. So the country as a whole, if you look at it, we're talking about 8 to 9,000 crore of DI pipe industry. That's the revenue business. So let's say approximately 10,000 crore. And now we are suddenly talking about a number which is multiple times, right? So we are obviously, elated. We are obviously looking at this sector, from an expansion point of view. So are some of the other players. But this industry also has a lot of entry barriers. It's not easy to come in and start producing. It has its own technical and marketing difficulties. So therefore, the existing DI players would have certain advantage over the next few years, and they should be in a position to take care and rather leverage this investments and make good money, at the same time being part of the country's infrastructure development.
Okay, fabulous. Rajneesh, if we take a look at the Jal Jeevan Mission as well, and the kind of outlook that's being planned via that, talk to us about what are perhaps your focus segments going forward, how some of this is going to play out.
See, as I mentioned earlier, we would be more focused on the technology part of it, where the treatment is involved, recycle, reuse, desalination. These are the 4 areas where we will be focused. There could be certain projects where if they are clubbed in along with the network and pipeline distribution, pumping, probably we will selectively will explore that. So these are the few segments where we see that Wabag will be very, very active. But as Sandeep also said, going forward, we see that there is going to be a huge surge in, the kind of requirement which is going to come from various states, urban local bodies based on the central allocation. Because even in the Jal Jeevan Mission, although we are mostly referring to the figures announced by the central government, but we see that, water being a state subject in most of the schemes, 50% is going to be contributed by the states. So definitely we see there is going to be a huge surge as far as new tenders are concerned in terms of building water and wastewater infrastructure. So definitely, I think if I have to, probably I will have to de-link from the past that what has been the growth in the Indian market. And we will have to focus that probably it is going to be a high double-digit growth for, companies like we at Tech Wabag. And not only in India, even, S&P has gone and said, like over the next 15 years, grow globally, 7.5 trillion, USD is going to be spent on water infrastructure. So, and it is in line with the SDG 6, which talks about water and sanitation for all. Even India is a signatory to that. So there is definitely water is happening thing, and going forward, I may not be exactly able to quantify being a forward-looking statement, but definitely we look at high double-digit growth as far as Indian market is concerned once the tenders start flowing in from the various government departments.
Sure. Sandeep, currently only about 70 million Indian households have piped water, or about 36% of the target. How much of part of the remaining contract are you at Tata Metaliks in particular eyeing?
See, the water infrastructure sector can use different material of construction. When it is for transmission of water, which means from the source to the treatment plant, and then let's say it's distributed, the larger dia pipes are typically of either ductile iron or maybe of steel. So, but if you're talking about distribution, the last mile connection, that is normally not ductile iron pipe. That is normally you will find more of plastic pipes, HDP, etc. So I think the other material of construction will also get the benefit. It's not only for the ductile iron pipe players to, let's say, participate in this massive infrastructure, boost that the government is undertaking. So it will be other material of construction also. But obviously, water is a social and a political and an economic commodity, and the government will continue to invest in this. So we see a long future, for a bright future for this industry, particularly because the medium size to large dia pipes, there the ductile iron pipes are the most competitive. They are the most preferred by the industry, and therefore the preference would certainly come to the ductile iron pipe players.
Sure. Rajneesh, if I could just, come back to you. The Nal Se Jal objective of 100% FHTC coverage is likely to create a huge surge in water demand. What are the effective solutions, according to you, to try and plug the supply-demand gap which you're currently facing as of now?
See, as you rightly said, this is going to lead to a huge surge in demand. Whatever government figures are indicating, they are looking at, even at a rural level, around 55 liters per day per person kind of a consumption. So obviously, it's not that India is water scarce, there is abundant water available. But one of the challenges is it should not lead to over-extraction of the groundwater. So I see two things here. One, wherever fresh water is available, how it can be, treated and supplied and distributed right up to the rural household. Also, the government itself has gone on record to say that 20% of the water supply will be met by recycled and reused water. So in these are the two areas. And third, as I earlier also mentioned, it is going to be the desalination, which is going to supplement. The other challenging fact is when you're going to use so much of water, which earlier you were not using, and now all of a sudden through pipe sources right at the tap, it's going to be made available to you. There is going to lead to a huge generation of wastewater, which is almost 80 to 90% of the water which we are going to supply to the citizens. So that is another area which needs to be simultaneously addressed by treating that wastewater and making it reusable, either by using it in agriculture or by recharging the aquifers, or it can even be used for wherever industrial belts are there for industry by recycling it to industrial usage. So these are a few things which obviously this huge surge in demand, there are ways to complement the increased water supply and also address the wastewater generation. So I'm sure government is aware of this and they have their plans in place.
Okay. Sure. Sandeep, now, talking about the Jal Jeevan Mission, and we've already been talking about this a little bit as well. What about the order uptick that you're also planning to see, and when do you expect to start to see them kicking in?
No, we are already seeing this. I think this growth, while the budget announcement happened recently, but I think the Jal Jeevan Mission has been there. The rural Jal Jeevan Mission has been there for a couple of years. I think 2019, September or November is when the government announced it. So there has been an uptick, especially over the last 3 to 4 months. And in fact, that's reflected in the order books that we have. And I've mentioned that too in various other media interviews that, typically for us, when the order load used to be anywhere between 9 and let's say 10, 11 months, today is running at a level of 14 to 16 months. So we are seeing this uptick. And as we go forward, we will see more and more of it. Of course, there has been a cost, pressure from the raw material front, which is visible not only for us, but for the iron and steel industry in general. So that's been on the cost side. But on the market side, there has been an uptick in orders. There has been an uptick in prices. So generally speaking, I think things are looking much, much better than what they were, let's say, 3 months back.
Okay, fair enough. Rajneesh, in terms of the kind of allocation that we're going to see to this segment now post the budget, in terms of your own ability also to handle volumes going forward, what's the capacity utilization in terms of where it's at currently and the kind of increase you anticipate or you think you can handle now going forward from a business perspective?
Very interesting and valid question. So definitely we have been anticipating a surge in demand. I think it started with the Namami Gange projects in the past, and that's how you see that our order book got strengthened in recent past. Going forward here, we are well equipped today to handle more projects. But as I said, our focus will more be where, technology plays a key role, being a pure play water technology company. So our focus will be there. And let me assure you that as we at Tech Wabag, we are not only executing projects in India, we are currently present in around 22 countries and have executed projects in 30 countries. So we have enough of execution capacity available, and in anticipation of some good demand coming in, I think we are well geared to handle, as I said, even in the past, if there is a very decent double-digit growth, which we are anticipating over the next 12 to 18 months, we are well geared to take on those orders and also execute them effectively and in time.
Sure. Sandeep, given the delay in collections from the government, though, would you require, say, higher working capital? And how is it that you plan to then fund your orders and then thereby expand the order book?
So you're absolutely right. As the investment increases, government typically, gives out the contracts to the EPC players. So whether it's the L&T or Tata Projects or, there are many other EPC companies in the water infrastructure space. So they will obviously have to dig deep in terms of getting their working capital. As far as the ductile iron pipe players are concerned, the pipe industry, typically we supply on, let's say, 100% of our supplies to the private sector is on secured basis. So is either a letter of credit or some other arrangement. So we don't really face that much of a problem. But when we supply directly to the government, that's open for us. And that payment cycle does get delayed. But for Tata Metaliks, that's a minor percentage. We don't supply more than 10 to 15% of our overall supplies. We keep it restricted precisely because of this reason. And we supply more in the private sector. So generally speaking, the working capital would get stretched for the EPC players and maybe to some extent for the DIP players who have more exposure directly to the government.
Rajneesh, the government has gone on record to say that 20% of the water demand under Jal Jeevan Mission will be met through recycled water. I wanted to understand what kind of an opportunity does recycled water in particular throw up for Tech Wabag?
Yeah. See, as far as Tech Wabag is concerned, we are a pure play water technology company. So our forte has been in treating toughest of the effluents, both in the industrial and municipal sector, be it, leather tannery effluent, be it, textile effluent. So wherever, we have toughest hydrocarbons. So wherever toughest effluents are there, we are able to easily treat them and make it recyclable. Similarly, we have executed projects in Namibia where we have treated this wastewater to a drinking water standards, as I said. But I do not see there is any, acceptability of treating the urban wastewater and, treated urban wastewater and to a drinking water standard. So probably where I see is that, most of this water will be treated to a certain level and it can be used for recharging the existing water bodies, which will lead to an indirect portable reuse, which in any case is happening today. So, but this will, further improve the quality and quantity of water available and wherever water sources are there. So as Tech Wabag, given our strong credentials, not only in India, but globally, we see that we will be the front runner in encashing this opportunity. And if I have to quantify this opportunity, probably we did some very broad calculations. We look at, as far as Indian market is concerned, that over the next few years, it's going to be around $3.3 billion kind of an opportunity as far as the Indian market is concerned, which definitely includes the industrial demand also. Also, when we are generating this huge amount of wastewater and treating it with a tertiary level, another upcoming segment is that where, there is a municipal industrial partnerships happening. So municipal body has a lot of treated wastewater. Industry has been struggling to get the water and sometimes it leads to even loss of production for them. So as I said that we implemented a project recently in Chennai, which is a typical example of industrial municipal water partnership. So that is something which we find will see a lot of traction across the country. And it makes a perfect, business model also because our client in Chennai, they expect a payback period of, around 4 to 5 years for the entire capex they have made by supplying it to industries. So that's one segment where I think Tech Wabag has a huge opportunity. Also, I would like to reiterate the fact that 5 states have already come up with their recycle reuse policy, which where in next 5 years, first is that they will treat 100% of the wastewater. And secondly, they will recycle and reuse 70% of this water. So I think that opportunity is huge and our credentials, our proven track record, our technologies, everything is already in place and we would definitely like to encash that opportunity.
Note, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us, and great
Thank
to
you.
hear about the kind of potential in this space.